Great pleasure to welcome to the program a man who is a co-author of a fascinating book, kind of a sequel to the #1 Times bestseller, The Art of Happiness. This is called The Art of Happiness in a Troubled World. Dr. Howard C. Cutler joined us today by telephone. He wrote it along, of course, with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And Dr. Cutler, thanks for being with us. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me, Greg.
I hope you're happy today.
I'm happy today. Got no complaints.
First of all, congratulations on the previous book. I know it was a great success for you, but it probably had to even exceed what you expected from it, didn't it?
It by far exceeded what I expected from it. Even the publisher didn't expect it to sell many copies, and it was a complete surprise. I mean, it ended up on the New York Times bestseller list for 97 weeks, and in its beginning, it was very small first printing and modest expectations for it, so it was quite a surprise.
It's such a simple term, happiness. We've all experienced it, but it's hard to kind of nail down what makes you happy, what exactly it is. You know it when you're happy, right? But to actually study it, it must be kind of fascinating to see what exactly is happening in your body or your brain when you are happy.
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of defining happiness, in any of the Art of Happiness books, the first one or the Art of Happiness in a Troubled World, I never provided a precise definition because everybody kind of has their own sense of happiness. Although we do distinguish it from, some people think of happiness as pleasure or amusement or having fun or just feeling good. The type of happiness we're talking about is kind of a deeper sense of, it includes pleasure, which is great and so on, but a deeper sense of fulfillment and life satisfaction and meaning and all of these things. So it's kind of a deeper, stronger sense of happiness. But still, as far as definitions go, I took the sort of Connor Stewart approach, who was a Supreme Court justice who was asked to define pornography once, and he just couldn't come up with an exact definition. He said, well, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it.
Yeah.
So I took the same approach. I didn't define it, but most of us know happiness when we feel it. So, I don't know, although from the scientific perspective, they need to define it in order to know what they're studying. And from that perspective, commonly they'll define happiness, for example, as a combination of frequently experiencing positive emotions plus an overall sense of life satisfaction or that one's life is going well and so on. So there's different definitions for the scientific studies. But for the purposes of this book, we kind of left it up to the individual.
Now, you met the Dalai Lama kind of through, I don't know if it was by accident, but you were over there doing a research project, weren't you? That wasn't the initial intent to meet him, was it, at that point?
No, not at all. You're right, I was over there. I got a grant to study traditional Tibetan medicine for a few months from the medical school that I was attending. And it turned out that Dalai Lama's older brother was director of the Tibetan Medical Center at that time. And I ended up living in a government guest house across the hall from his brother and brother's wife and family and so on. So I got to know his family, and they were the ones who first suggested, well, while you're in Dharamsala, which is in the mountains in northern India, you really should meet His Holiness, and they helped facilitate that. So it's really just curiosity to meet him the first time I met. I wasn't really expecting anything and specifically, and I didn't have any particular agenda other than just meeting him. But that first meeting, I was just blown away. I really liked him. He wasn't at all what I expected, and I stayed in touch with him over the years. That was going back to 1982, so that was a long time ago.
It's kind of like meeting the Pope, right, or any kind of religious leader. There's got to be an intimidation factor at the beginning, right, once you first meet him.
I remember sitting in the little sort of waiting area prior to meeting him, and my heart was pounding, and I was starting to sweat because I was thinking, here's this great spiritual leader, and also he was also the political leader in Tibet before the communist Chinese invaded, and so he's like a king, and I was sort of expecting somebody, very sort of dignified and reserved and detached, or I don't know what I was expecting, but I was kind of nervous. But when I first met him, like so many other people I've spoken to on the first meeting, he just completely, puts a person at their ease because he's so down to earth and warm and friendly, and, he relates to everybody the same, it seems, no matter, who they are. He doesn't relate to people based on their position or their title or how much money or power they have. He just talks to people like one human being to another. So I really enjoyed meeting him. Not only was he warm and friendly, but very smart, great sense of humor, loves to laugh, and he's just really an amazing guy.
What was the process of actually doing the book? Tape recording conversations with him, or what was your process for doing this?
Yep, I would meet with him. The first volume of Art of Happiness began with a series of conversations I had with him in Arizona, which is where I live. And he'd come here to give some teachings, and I'd arranged to spend time with him every day privately to gather material for this book on happiness that was specifically geared towards a non-Buddhist audience, a general sort of mainstream Western audience. So we met every day and talked, and I recorded those conversations. Then I went to India the following year and met with him at his home and had more discussions and so on. And so as the series has progressed over the years, basically that's exactly it. I would meet with him, usually in Dharamsala, but sometimes other places. Like I met with him, I had some great meetings with him in Prague once because he had some free time and so on. And I would record those, make transcripts out of those conversations, edit them, and then add my own, so those conversations would present his views on various facets about human happiness, and then I would add commentary from the Western perspective, from the scientific perspective, looking for scientific evidence that supports the validity of his views, or stories that helps people understand how to implement his ideas in their own lives, if they're not Buddhists, and so on. And that was kind of how the books were structured.
And when you look at his life, he's gone through some very difficult circumstances and seen a lot of tragedy in his life. So he knows the depths of sadness, and I guess from that you learn happiness, right? Isn't that what he talks about?
Yeah, definitely. His life has not been easy. He was forced into exile many years ago, and his people suffered tremendously, and he's tried really hard to improve the situation for his people in Tibet, for human rights and greater autonomy and so on, and has not been successful, which, of course, is bound to be extremely frustrating and sad. He told so many stories of, his people suffering, and also in his own life, of course, he's dealt with the same sort of things that we all have, deaths of family members and sad events and things like that, and yet he's always maintained this sense of optimism and underlying happiness despite continuously struggling with these problems like the Tibetan situation and so on. So, yeah, he definitely has not had an easy life.
Well, it's a fascinating book. You almost feel like you're there between the two of you, because you did say you recorded these conversations. You can almost hear the conversation. I think that's what makes it really compelling, and I'm sure this book will be as successful, even more than the first one. It's called The Art of Happiness in a Troubled World. We were talking with Dr. Howard C. Cutler, the co-author, along with the Dalai Lama. And Dr. Cutler, we appreciate you joining us today. Good luck with the book, and hopefully we can talk to you again down the road.
Thanks, Doug. Can I mention a website?
Sure, give the website out.
theartofhappiness.com.
Thank you, Dr. Cutler.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me on.